YouTube, we're here finally. Been working all night to get this video set up for you folks. It's gonna be awesome though. We're working on the rudder tonight. We're gonna be adding the rudder. Got some new scale details we're gonna be adding. I want to give you a quick overview before we get into the rudder. Oh guys, look at this. Get ready. Oh yeah. The correctly sized windows. This isn't the color, this is just a template color. We've been working through, we have this cameo thing that cuts, and this is the paper kind of screwed up on us. But I'm making covers for these egregiously stupid lettering, and then we're going to have the correct letters, and they're going to be the correct color too. And incidentally, we're just getting ready to cut to cover those up too. And I'm very fortunate that my wife needed to get this cameo for this very purpose. You see this? Look at that. We're going to cut those exactly. They'll look really neat. And it's amazing how close the match is. But that's going to cover up these stupid labels that I hate. I mean, this one's not so bad, but I haven't found one single picture that the airplane has the name of the airplane on the wing. I have obviously seen Airbus, but it's just this kills me. I can't duplicate that very easy. So maybe I'll change that to Airbus at some point, but for now I don't have that color. So we can't do that yet. But anyway, you haven't even seen the best part, guys. The best part for the last I've saved, and that's going to be with the rudder. And so the whole process of doing this has been fiasco-esque, and we're just working through it still. But anyway, so we're going to be sanding this down, which means we're going to lose this. And incidentally, in mine, I don't know if you guys remembered, but I had some damage over here on one of the decals. So my decal is going to come off completely. And then even though the windows are virtually double the size, if you look, they're silver and then black. And so that really buys us some lenience. And then same here, the doors are about, I think that we figured on 26%. Too big, but like I said, they kind of work. So I'm okay with that. These do not. They're too big, and the nose is the worst part in terms of scale on the whole plane. So just working through one thing at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And this is the next bite, guys. The rudder. It's going to be so cool. Wipe down the servo with thinner. And then I took and scored it with an X-Acto knife, so it's ready to go. I have it in the correct orientation. I've decided on my position. I've taken and pressed it into the foam just to give me a rough mark here. Okay? Just like this. Guys, in case you're wondering, I normally toil through these things. And I've been toiling through this exact step for like 2 days. Just ask my wife, she'll tell you. Because I make her listen. Anyway, so you see this wire is going to go like that, okay? So we're going to actually cut that in here into the white part, and then I can cover that with white vinyl tape. Or I'll cut it at the seam of the blue. Now, keeping in mind that this is a decal and it will damage, it's very brittle, okay? Yours is too, if you have one. Now, this, ironically enough, came with an extra control horn adapter, which is pretty cool. So I've already pressed that in. Just line that up roughly and kind of press it in to give myself a mark, okay? And you'll also notice that I have these hinges. These are the Bro nylon hinges, okay? And these are the bigger size that I use. And I'm just going to use 3 of those. Yeah, you could use a CA hinge, but I want that Metal Gear servo to not have to work too hard, because this is actually a big control surface. Ironically enough, because we have differential thrust, and we have a rudder, and we have a steerable nose gear, all of which have been checked for alignment, which we did in the last video, we're going to have a lot of yaw control on this plane. I'm hoping the rudder doesn't roll the plane like crazy, which reminds me of my Delta Ray up there, the Delta Ray monster. I added a rudder on that thing, differential thrust, all sorts of stuff. And the rudder just rolled that thing like crazy. It was like giving it aileron input. Hoping that doesn't happen. Alright, great. So, hinges, off. Off you go. Okay, those are the 3 hinges. Now that you guys have a 10,000 foot view of what we're doing, I want to show you one last detail. I was toying about having this in here for the beginning of the video as a teaser. But guys, look at how awesome that looks now. It's so much better. I came back and did a second coat of the blue paint. And just look how much better the 380 looks when it's not wrong. And here, guys, let's just compare it to my little picture. By the way, new style, our style. Okay, see the difference in the A? The 380 has got a different font. Look at how much better that looks, guys. The angles are almost exactly right now. Now, these aren't even cameoed on yet. That's just paper for positioning. Those are going to be vinyl white stickers. So, pretty awesome stuff. And ironically enough, the vinyl stickers, almost an exact match of the blue, which I kind of wish I would have known. I would have just put a piece of decal across this. So that being said, and without further ado, getting these things lined up is a bear. I mean, and I'm talking exactly lined up because I'm super anal retentive about that. So I'm really reluctant to move it, but at the same time I kind of have to. So I was actually thinking about pinning this down to keep it in position, but it's going to have to come off at some point anyway. So it pains me to say, but I'm going to probably have to pull this off. The good news is I'll be able to relocate it carefully with these. These are templates, so it's just paper, and I use tape on front and back to hold them together. And just look how perfect that looks. You know, it's great. So there's that. And then what I'm going to do, see, I accidentally hit a couple of little chunks of that blue paint. I'm going to have to touch those up, which is a bummer. That's life in the big city, though. I'm going to have some touch-up when I'm done with this anyway. I guarantee this isn't going to cut without any damage. So you got our mark there, we got our mark there, which is where the servo needs to be cut out for. Okay? And you'll notice I avoided where the numbers are going to be because it just gets really complicated, guys. If you want to put that in there in a convenient place, this is what you have to do. I did all that by hand with paint. It was ridiculous, but it does look really good. So anyway, if you want to go through that pain and suffering, be my guest. I'm not doing that again. So my first step is to cut this rudder. There's already a seam line, a panel line, okay? So I'm just looking at it. This is about a 2-day-old blade. I've used it about 3 times. First thing you got to do when you're doing a rudder install is make sure you got clearances, which I already did, but I'm going to just do it for your sake. You see, we got clearance. The other thing you got to keep in mind is that as this articulates and bends, it's going to move up and then down and then up and then down. And so you're going to have to probably cut a little bit of a relief in there. Okay, so that's where we're going to start. And you can cut this with a knife or you can cut it with hot. I'm going to probably start with the knife. Okay. And I'm not even going to cut it all the way through. I'm just going to cut a little bit. These knives are so stinking sharp when they're fresh like this that they will cut. Now, I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to just make sure I don't need to mitigate any damage. I don't even see where the blade came through. Okay, we'll try that again. Sometimes you'd be surprised how bad these molds are, guys. See how it's poked through? We have our point to start from, okay? So now I gotta lay this down like that so I don't damage it on the wood, on the plywood, guys. Okay, now I'm intentionally not making it all the way through because I don't want to push this decal off, okay? Now that cut came through here, so I'll have to intentionally cut a little bit low. It's not going to be a big deal. Okay, it's cut all the way through now, okay? So now, you're going to notice that this is going to end up being weak because there's not much there. Remember that this is going to be glued inside on the bottom. Incidentally, we can take a look at that real quick. When we're all said and done, we're going to want to put glue on the bottom and glue here and glue here. We don't necessarily want to put a ton of glue on this decal, so we may score it and then go ahead and glue it. But be careful. These decals, once they start going, they flake off. The whole the whole thing will flake off on you if you're not careful. So, okay, so we've got that cut. I'm going to come in at an angle, and I'm going to give myself about half of a depth cut. At an angle, okay? That's intentional. At an angle, guys. I can't stress it enough, even though I just said it 4 times. Now watch this, guys. Now, I'm confident in doing this because I've done it a number of times, and I know that this blue, I can replace it with my blue cameo cutter thing. If you don't have blue to touch up with, you may want to be a little bit more precise. Okay? Now watch what happens here. Oh, buddy. It's not flaked off yet, but it will. Just in mere moments, guys. Okay, there we go. Get out of there. Oh, yeah. Get out of there. Oh, yeah. Gorgeous. And that's going to give us plenty of relief to allow for the swing. If you're not sure where your line is, just push on it and it'll show you where it is. Okay? Now if you try to do this with a dull knife, you're going to be kicking yourself all day because it's just way harder. But if you do it with a sharp knife, you have to be prepared to actually find the cut. Because it's so easy to make a new cut that it is easy to make that mistake. Okay? See? Got that little wedge angle. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. And the confidence I need to make that cut, because I know that it's going to be at an angle and you're going to see the white come through. Okay? So now while we're between these steps, what I need to do next is I'm probably going to go ahead and use a little bit of heat. Okay, and I'm going to actually use the heat to open up that pocket. Now, you're probably wondering, why are you doing this all now? Why don't you just cut off the rudder and then you can do it? Well, because it's easy to get your pocket right if you do it now. It's hard to do it if you do it later. So I'm going to get the cleanest shim I have, 20,000 shim. Get a little heat to it. I want it back here in the middle. Okay, and I'll show you why. Get your heat in the middle. It's not even hot here, okay? That's important. Now watch what happens. Run it in slowly and just work it. You see? You get it to where it's hot and then it does its work and you just back off of it. See? Now, one thing you got to do is, as you're doing this, you got to periodically clean this thing off. And you can do lubricants on there, like a little teeny bit of oil. But just be careful, it will smoke. So don't set off your smoke detector and wake up all your kids and stuff. Then you're going to be in trouble. See that gap, guys? Now, just like any other project I do on YouTube, guys, this is super overthinky, okay? But this will work good. I promise. It will work good or your money back. Unless, of course, you grab the hot end. Of course, I got it hot from there to there, and it's kind of hard to tell exactly where it starts getting hot. I didn't get burned, it was just warm. I freaked out like usual. Okay, so we need to get a little bit of fine tuning now. Now we can just heat the tip. That's got to be one of the first or second times I've done that. Okay, that's pretty good. Alright, cool. So we got a pretty nice little clean gap there. Now the very, very, very scary part comes, where you have to try to cut this, and it's kind of hard to see for one thing, and for two, if you make a mistake, you'll see it, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through and just score this line, and I'm going to kind of cut as square as I can. But see, when you cut square, you block your line of sight, okay? So it's challenging to get a perfect cut, and you probably won't get a perfect cut, but you can get as near perfect as you prepare for. So I'm going to try to have this as a guide, okay? Now you see that guide's not even long enough, so I'm going to have to do it in 2 cuts, okay? Lining it up. Alright, double check, triple check. Okay, we're good. So now I'm going to cut this square. And I'm not going very deep at all. And I'm intentionally not going to cut my thumb off. Okay, now I'm not going all the way through, guys. I'm not doing it. Not today. Not here, not now. Okay? Now I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. This little mar in the finish was not me. It was just by shipping or something. I don't know. Now, since I'm right-handed, I got to go to the other side now. So to make sure my cut ends up in the same spot. Okay? Except now I'm nervous about that because, see, that's a pretty wide seam there. Okay? So here's a trick. Take on the top, get a 90-degree angle, cut it. Give yourself a start point. Go down to the bottom. You should already have a stop point. Just to be on the safe side, let's go ahead and bring this knife blade in. Cut it, 90-degree angle, okay? Now you can see where your cut point should stop right there, okay? Okay. Alright, here goes nothing. I'm pushing down the decal. Alright, there's my cut point. Remember, not all the way through this time. Not this time. Don't chop your fingers off, not this time. Okay? Now we're going to continue that cut. Just like so. Okay? Now, look. Don't have enough to get the fold yet. Okay, so the next step for us is pretty easy. We're going to basically open up this gap now, okay? So I don't want to use one of these longer shims. I want to use something that's easier to control. So I'm going to go for one of these. It's got a little residue on there, so I'm probably have to burn that off. Which means I'll heat it up and then just wipe it down. Whatever that crap is, probably melted plastic or something. Okay, so now we can heat it up. Okay, now I'm going to go down here where there's more material since it's hotter now. Test. Too hot still. See what I'm going to do? I'm going to basically ride the groove. Now this is going to help keep that decal from deforming too badly. Okay? But it's also going to make it even. Okay? See how nice and, I mean, as good as it's going to be, right? Now let's do the same thing to the other side, only let's clean it first. Now I normally don't care on a rudder. You know, it's not as critical because there's not as much detail on most of these models, but these airliners are a lot of detail. See, I'm kind of riding with the cool part of the blade. That's helping to guide me, guys. Okay? Move a nice, relatively clean, and then that decal is going to be set up into the foam nicely. Okay? So now we've almost got a pinch hinge going here, which would be ideal. See, we've got a little bit of play now. Of course, you're not going to be able to move that with the servo yet. Okay, so now it's tempting to just go in here and just work it a little bit. Oh, crap. Support that wing on the table if you can while you do this, okay? The more you support it now, the less damage you're going to have to fix later. Okay, let's heat it up again. Whoops. Just cleaning off the shim again. Now you guys are probably thinking to yourself, Brian, you have those hinges. Why are you worrying about making a hinge out of it? Well, if it works good, I'll just leave it without a hinge. I don't suspect I'm going to get that lucky, though. I mean, let's be real. It's a pretty huge rudder. And I've already got differential thrust, too. Just wait till I'm doing the flaps. Oh man, teaser. Dang. Yeah, this plane's going to have flaps, guys, at some point. I just don't know when. It's got to survive long enough to get them, of course. I'm really tempted to just ram a couple of toothpicks coated in mucilage in there just to strengthen this thing. Not sure if I'm going to do that or not yet. Probably do a bamboo skewer or something, maybe. I don't know. Probably do nothing. Probably just talking now. Nope, there it goes. I figured it would break eventually. Not a big deal. I was planning on it. Good. We didn't get a lot of damage either. That's handy. It really does help. Okay, so now at this point, we've got two pieces. Okay? So we can go ahead and start making our gap. Now our gap, we're going to have to probably do a little bit of sanding. And the sanding doesn't always work great. Sometimes it works really good, sometimes it doesn't. This feels like it's going to sand good because we used hot to actually form it. Just try not to screw up the decal any more than is absolutely necessary to get this. You got to give it that angle. So I'm going like this and I'm going like this. That's going to give us somewhere for the rudder to relieve into. Okay, same thing here. Except we got to go with the little tight thing. Got a little bit of a twist in there, but I can live with that. It's not the end of the world by any means. Just kind of rounding the edges a little bit. Now, I believe these are water decals, so you could hypothetically get this wet and get those decals to reseat. But I'm probably not going to do that. So far, so good. Okay, so now the scary part. I'm going to probably have to go ahead and relieve this angle a little bit more. But I'm torn between heat and between sanding and between cutting. We're going to try sanding a little bit more. Now, the other thing I could do is try to put pressure on it and just squish it down. Like this. But I think I'm going to have a hard time applying the pressure even enough to get a good finish. Okay, heat it is, the scariest method. Now, there is a way to do this so it's a little safer. And that is, you can stick that into the table and slide this by it. It'll make it even. Luckily this stuff is pretty resilient, which means you got to heat up the knife a lot, but okay. So once you're done with that heat, then you want to just check periodically and see if you've got enough of that angle there to get your rotation on the rudder. It's not like this is a slope soaring sailplane or something, so it doesn't have to have just tons and tons of deflection. But I want it to have at least enough to do some damage. You see how it's kind of touching at the bottom there? Right at that sharp spot? We're going to have to trim that down just a little bit. Okay. Okay. Alright, cool. Let's try it again. We're getting close here, guys. That won't hit now. Okay, so now the challenge becomes, do we want more or are we good with that? And the way you get more is twofold. You can either round this over more, which I'll probably get a little bit more sanding out of it. You can make a pocket here, which is going to be very difficult. Or you can allow the hinge to stick out like this, okay? Which means you have that gap there, and I don't like that for aerodynamic reasons or for looks reasons, but it's the easiest method. You'll get more play that way, and you're going to give up less of your decal. I think we got to try a little more sanding first. And just throw that on the ground. It helps a lot. Alright, awesome. Try to use the air compressor there. Okay. I think we're probably good, guys. So now this just becomes a matter of flattening this one side, which means I need to get a little bit better support on the nose of this. Okay, cool. So we're done-ish on that. Yeah, that told you we'd have a little bit of touch up there. Alright, cool. So, here we go. Alright, so the next step is going to be decision time. How do we manage this open spot? Do we paint this? Do we put vinyl on it? Do we do nothing? Nothing is always an option. This is a foamy, and there are certain details that don't have to be right, and you can still be happy with it. One of those details is most definitely not how ugly the nose is on this thing. I mean, and when I say ugly, I mean it doesn't look scale. It's not especially ugly or beautiful. It's just not what it should look like. And that's the whole purpose of a scale plane, in my opinion. It's better to look pretty much scale or it's not going to satisfy. Okay, so the next step is going to be to decide on that. I think we're probably going to just have to touch it up with paint. And I don't even know if I'm going to do that. I'll touch up this edge, but I don't know if I can touch up the rest, because I'd have to touch it up to here, and then how do I touch up this other color? I don't think I have a color like that. Well, that would be gray. Okay, so the next step is going to be hinging this and cutting out the pocket and then inserting our control arm. So we're out of time for this video. So guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check the links below, help support the channel. Let's give you guys a shot of this real quick in the fuse. Oh yes, that's awesome. I love it. That is so cool. That is going to be so neat. You know what they say, guys, the devil's in the details. And this thing's going to look really awesome. But anyway, thanks for watching. Come back for more. Appreciate you guys coming back. And another video coming real soon. Hopefully the maiden within the next couple of days.